There's a lot of options for the Steelers at 24. There's obviously an option where they could trade back, which I'm totally for obvious reasons.
That's what they should do, but
they could go need at 24, whether that be inside linebacker, that could be running back, that could be offensive line, or they could go best player available, which is honestly, as I'm looking at it right now, the most likely case. And that could be linebacker, that could be running back, that could be offensive line. Just the three positions that come off the top of my head. Best player available. It's one of Kevin Colbert's tricks up his sleeve. It's one of his cards in the deck, I may say. So, in this mock, as you guys can read by the title, it is titled BPA, Best Player Available. And I know this is going to trigger some Steelers fans. This may make a lot of Steelers fans happy with this one. I'm looking at it in both ways. Rob and I here are looking at it in both ways. There's people that are saying we should go running back round one, whether that's Naji or Etienne, maybe Javonte, and go lineman second round because offensive lineman, specifically tackle, is stacked. I agree with you.
Right, or vice versa.
Where they say we should go tackle and go running back later since running back isn't a valuable position. And I agree with you. Honestly, I got to say, I can't argue either way we're going to go. I can't complain.
You can't go wrong either way. But in this scenario, best player available may be a more realistic option when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers because they tend to do stuff like this.
Right.
And when it comes to best player available, I mean, they've succeeded at least recently. T.J. Watt, Juju Smith-Schuster. Edmonds is getting up there. Bud Dupree was a great selection.
Right. So, this year, specifically because of how deep the class is in terms of offense, they could go best player available, and that's exactly where we go with this mock here. In the first round, with the 24th pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Naji Harris, running back out of Alabama. Now, you guys already knew that Naji Harris was eventually going to be mocked into one of our mocks.
And roughly so. I mean, we all know how Naji Harris is. He's a dynamic running back. He is, without a doubt, a workhorse, a starting caliber running back, day one, more than likely, in the NFL.
Oh, yeah, no matter what team.
The guy's a monster. The guy's a beast.
The guy is a stud. He is incredibly athletic. He's fast. He can do it all. He can pass block. He can run the ball. He can run you over. He can make you look silly.
He can even catch the ball.
The dude can do it all. In this case, he could be best player available. Steelers have met with Naji Harris. Naji Harris is becoming a big popular name in Steelers Nation. And I'm going to be completely real with you. Naji would not be my first choice, honestly. He would be my choice if it's best player available. But it also depends who's on the board. For Naji Harris to be the first pick at 24, it all depends who's on the board, or it depends on who they draft in the later rounds.
Yeah.
To make this selection a little bit more, reasonable, a little bit more liking for some of those fans that don't want Naji in the first round. Honestly. Naji is not my first selection. He would not be my first selection, but in this mock, he could be best player available. Now, personally, for me, when it comes to running backs, I'd rather take Javonte Williams. He's just as good, and he's much younger.
Much younger.
Naji, he is 6'2", 230. He's got the size. He's got the powerhouse ability that, you really like in a running back.
He's got the look of a Pittsburgh Steeler.
And
of a running back,
yes.
Steelers-wise.
My only concern with him outside of how much work he took in Alabama is his age. He literally turns 23 as of technically today, but we're uploading this tomorrow on a Wednesday, so in this term, literally yesterday.
Yeah, so happy birthday to Naji Harris for one, but he will be 23.
Well, he is 23, actually.
And if he is, well, yeah. And if he is selected in the first round, he obviously has that fifth-year option when it comes to any team if he's selected in the first round, but he'll be 23. By the time his rookie contract ends, he'd be around the time where he starts wearing down, where running backs don't tend to be more valuable. They don't tend to be more dynamic.
That running back lifespan starts to decline.
So that's a risk, and that's a worry when it comes to Naji Harris at his age right now.
But don't let that distract you from the fact this man is dynamic. We all know Naji's dynamic. No one's disregarding the fact that Naji Harris isn't a dynamic running back. He is. He's a freaking monster. He's crazy. He's an incredible athlete, incredible football player. But to some fans, running back may not be the most smart pick in the first round because of running backs history and how easy they can be replaced
They'll-
or how easy you can find a star.
Their lifespan in general.
And again, I agree with you guys completely. And I also agree with the crowd that say that running back could be going number one, our first pick in the first round, and go offensive lineman in the second and third round, day two, because of how stacked it is. So I agree with both parties. I'm there with both parties. I can't complain either way we go. But honestly, the way I'm looking at it, if Naji is our first pick, we got to strike with offensive linemen in the second and third round,
Day two, yes.
And that's exactly what we do with this mock. With the 55th pick in the second round, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Dylan Radins, offensive tackle out of North Dakota State. This is a guy I really like, and this is honestly one of my biggest sleepers in this draft when it comes to offensive tackle. He's a little bit more unknown, probably because of his small school, because of where he comes from. But don't let that fool you, man. This guy is a baller. He's 6'6", 298 for an offensive tackle. He's an incredible run blocker and pass blocker as well. And he was obviously one of those key blockers for the rushing attack. And, of course, let's not forget, he was the blindside blocker for future first-round pick, Trey Lance.
Yes. So Dylan Radins, he is absolutely starter quality in our honest opinion.
Now,
possibly even day one, but with Zach Banner supposedly resigning with the team more than likely and potentially being the starter at left tackle,
according to reports,
it would be fun for Radins to sit on the bench for a couple games, a few games, at least maybe half the season, and for him to come in after his development and be that starter if Banner doesn't turn out well.
That could honestly be the story for a lot of these offensive tackles, no matter where we go in terms of offensive tackle. But Radins could be another story there. He started 32 out of 33 games, all at left tackle. But the great thing about him, he can even be moved to left guard if needed.
Yeah.
And like specific running schemes. And this guy can deliver. He's an incredible run blocker, and he can pass block because Trey Lance, man, he was a blindside blocker for him, and we all know the type of quarterback Trey Lance is.
Yeah.
Now in the third round, with the 87th pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Quinn Miners, center, out of University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. 6'3", 320. This guy has the size of an interior offensive lineman. And he was obviously one of those big risers in the Senior Bowl.
Yes, another guy from a very, very small school.
Division III.
But the man is a freaking mauler.
He's a powerhouse. He's like a brick wall. He'll put you on your ass and create lanes for the running back and protect well in pass protection.
Yeah, getting past this guy will not be easy, even in his rookie season. The guy will... I think this guy's like another Kevin Dotson, center-wise. I really do.
And you align him beside Kevin Dotson? I mean, that's a little frightening.
Yeah,
and that's very promising when it comes to our rushing attack. You draft Naji, you get a great run blocker and Radins, and then you get a pancake machine and Miners. I mean, that rushing attack already right there is back.
And the Steelers have expressed so many times that they need and want to establish a rushing game. They want to give Ben a running game. And that's what they need to do if Ben is coming back, but they need to do that in general. Because it's what's going to help you win football games.
It's truly what's missing from this team is a running game.
Yeah.
A consistent, healthy running game. And that's where we address in the early rounds of this mock. Miners could very well be Pouncey's replacement unless we sign someone in free agency. One of my top guys I'm looking at, actually the only top guy I'm looking at rather, is Corey Lindsey.
Former Green Bay Packers center. He was a Pro Bowler last year, I believe.
He's going to want a big contract because if you look at centers' contracts, I think the leading... When it comes to highest paid centers, I think the leader is Ryan Kelly of the Colts. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he's up around like $12.5 million, something like that. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but Corey Linsley has been very consistent over the years, and he finally got his recognition this year, and of course he protected Aaron Rodgers, and you bring him into Pittsburgh where he can protect another Hall of Famer and Ben Roethlisberger. It's just a perfect fit.
It would be, yeah.
The price tag could be very well out of our reach. But that's something to add. That's one guy I really want. That's the only guy I really want in free agency, honestly, when it comes to center for Pouncey's replacement.
Yeah,
that would give us
in free agency. There are obviously other names, but Lindsey is at the top of our list right now in free agency and at center.
That's something we're going to add. But even then, even if we pick up a center to be a starter immediately, I could still see us going center in the draft, whether that's day 2, day 3. And still developing them to eventually take over. Because the thing with Linsley, he's going to be 30. So he's not really on the younger side anymore, but he can still produce.
Yeah.
So whether Miners comes in as a Pouncey replacement or we do sign someone and then they start for a little bit before putting Miners in or another center we draft, that's a scenario there. That's something I'm going to add there.
Right.
Now, day 3, in the 4th round, we have 2 4th-rounders, obviously. With the first pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Cameron Bynum, cornerback out of California. Corner depth.
We could use corner depth.
Yeah, seriously. Of course, we all know Mike Hilton and Cameron Sutton are going to be free agents. No news on them yet as of this recording. There could be news in the next 24 hours before this is uploaded.
Or there could be news like right now as we're recording. We don't know.
Yeah, but
regardless, we need corner depth.
yes. Now, by some miracle, we resign Hilton. I could see us losing Sutton. And in that case, we're going to need outside corner depth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where Bynum comes in. Or if you want to put Bynum in the slot, if we lose Hilton and retain Sutton, that's a very more likely option. You could do that as well. But Bynum could very well be mostly outside corner depth because of his size. 6 foot, 200 pounds, 42 consecutive starts at California. Pretty impressive. In those starts, he had 6 career interceptions and 28 passes defended. He's a pretty sticky corner, man. And
so he has experience, and he can be reliable outside if developed properly.
Yes,
and with this guy's with our
history,
defensive backs
yeah,
being developed, yes, it's not too keen. But again, Cameron Bynum is another talented corner that could possibly even be a nice steal. Now with the second 4th-round selection, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Bobby Brown III, interior defensive lineman from Texas A&M.
Get this, 6'4", 324. This guy's massive and powerful. But the crazy thing about him, he still moves well at the same time.
A man of his size, he's pretty good.
Now, there are some concerns about his motor, whether he's a 3-down interior defensive lineman. That's where he would fit in our system as a 3-4. He'd be initially D-line depth, specifically defensive tackle. He's a good run defender. He can easily clog the gaps because of his size. He can push linemen back, as you guys can see in the film here. And he even shows pass rush ability.
He does.
So he's a pretty underrated defensive lineman in this draft. He would obviously be initially D-line depth. I don't know what happens to Alualu. Still no news on him yet, unless, of course, in the next 24 hours there is news. But Bobby Brown III, even if we do keep Alualu, is a guy that could work his way up because he's young as hell, too.
He's young. He's talented. I think he's actually 20 years old as of right now.
Yeah, he's young as heck.
So when the season starts, he will be at an age where he can easily be defensive line depth. But as he gets older and develops more with Carl Dunbar, our defensive line coach, he can work his way into the starting role down the future.
Definitely. Now, in the 6th round, the Steelers have 2 6-rounders. With the first pick in the 6th round, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Patrick Johnson, edge out of Tulane. Pretty much outside linebacker depth, but Johnson is another underrated talent in this draft. He has the potential to be a great 3-4 outside linebacker, honestly, obviously in rotations. But the great thing about him, he was the school's leader in sacks the last 3 years, which also crowned him the school's all-time leader in sacks. So that shows you, man, this guy can get to the quarterback. He has an arsenal of ways to get to the quarterback. He's a very fun pass rusher to watch. Good run defender, of course. And another great note about him, he also tallied two double-digit sack seasons, which, by the way, was also first in school history.
So it goes to show the talent that Patrick Johnson has and the type of player he really is. And as outside linebacker depth, you can rotate him with Highsmith and Watt. It could really work well.
He can work special teams as well. He's got ideal size for outside linebacker, 6'3", 255. He played DN in college, but of course for his size, he'd be outside linebacker. But he's still edge either way. But he'd be a great outside linebacker rotational depth.
Yeah, and as the Steelers like to use their linebackers in rotations, he'd be perfect in that role. Now with our second 6th-round selection, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Jalen Darden, wide receiver out of North Texas.
We finally go receiver, this time in the 6th round. I have no idea what happens with Juju.
As of right now, it's unknown. There's been reports saying that it's unlikely we could resign him. Then his mother went out there and said it's fake news. As of right now, we all don't know. The only person that knows is Juju.
The only person that knows is the Steelers, but I don't even know if they've even had communications yet. And we're only 1 week away from the new league year, so they better start talking.
Yeah, they better start getting to work.
But nonetheless, whether he is resigned or not, Jalen Darden could come in and be great slot depth, or could very well work his way up to be Juju's replacement. Now, he is 5'9", 174.
Yeah, he's on the very, very skinny and small side.
But do not let his frame fool you. This guy can eat in the slot. He finished his career as the school's all-time leader in receptions with 230, receiving yards with 2,782, and even receiving touchdowns with 38. 19 of those being in 2020, which 16 of those 19 touchdown receptions came in the slot.
And I believe he only played 9 games.
This guy can work.
The guy can work. The guy is very underrated.
This guy is explosive. He's fast. He's very, very shifty. He has yak ability. He can even work in pre-snap motion, which we all know Matt Canada loves. He even has return specialist ability where we can work him in special teams initially. Good route runner, good hands. And like I said, can be great slot depth and possibly Juju's replacement. Jalen Darden is another one of my favorites. He has great slot size, man. He's just so explosive, so fast, so crazy.
Yeah.
He set school records, which, by the way, is the same college Mean Joe Green came from. Huge shout to him.
Yeah.
But this guy can work. This guy is a beast in the slot.
The guy's very talented. And Steelers, for some reason, like their very small receivers. But, I mean, I think Steelers could just take about anybody from any school or even any job. Like, they could take a Walmart guy who's pushing carts back into the store, and Kevin Cooper could come up and say, hey, you want to be a Pittsburgh Steeler? And next thing you know, he's taking Greedy Williams' ankles.
Yeah, right.
Like,
seriously.
we are a wide receiver factory, and you add Jalen Darden to the mix as a dynamic slot receiver, if he can work his way up there, I think it would be a pretty nice steal.
Jalen Darden, man, I think he will be a steal in this draft for any team, man. There's been talks where he could be possibly a late day 2 selection, but we have him day 3 probably because of his small school and his small stature. But either way, I think he's going to be a steal in the draft. And Jalen Darden, man, this guy can work. Let me tell you that.
He can.
Now, in the 7th round, to finish out the mocks, 2 7th-round picks. With the first one, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Grant Steward, inside linebacker out of Houston. 6'1", 225. So he is a little smaller when it comes to inside linebacker. In terms of weight, 225, he could be a little bit more, bulky, I guess. But again, don't let that fool you because this guy, he led Houston in special teams tackles with 11 in 2018, which then worked his way up to being the starter for his last 2 years in college, in which he led the team in tackles.
Right.
So he'd purely be a special teams pick. He's obviously inside linebacker depth, and I would say a great special teams ace. When you look at this guy's film, man, he's a great tackler, can work special teams. He's someone that has an eye for the ball, and one thing I love about him, he has great hustle. He never gives up on the play. That's what you need in a special teams ace.
As linebacker for the Steelers, I think it worked pretty well. You start him off as special teams, then potentially if he can get up there, work his way up.
Possibly. But
Possibly.
Initially, he'd be an incredible special teams ace.
Right.
And by the way, I just got a note. He has a great head of hair. Just putting that out there.
No, he does.
Now to close out this mock, guys, with our last pick, the second 7th round pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Dylan Sainer, tight end out of Iowa State. We finally go tight end. Again, we wait till the end of the mock to finally go tight end, purely because all we need is a number 2 that can block.
Yeah.
And Sainer is that guy. Get this. This man is 6'7", 272 pounds.
For a tight end. That's massive.
He is massive, but he's also quite athletic for his size. Now, he didn't see much time in the passing game. He was primarily used as on special teams and as a run blocker.
But that's where he thrived. And as a run blocker, again, that's all we need as a number 2 tight end. And the guy can work there. If he can literally slide right in at number 2.
Yeah, and it got him to the point where he got an invitation to the NFL Combine this year.
Right.
So, he's got that blocking potential that we really like and really need. He's got a hell of a motor when it comes to blocking. So he'd be your number 2 tight end, run blocking tight end that we so desperately need. But anyway, guys, that is our best player available mock draft. Let us know your guys' thoughts and mocks down below. Again, this is the last mock draft before free agency. Now we'll be back with more mock drafts, obviously after free agency, after the Steelers make moves, after we see who goes, who we get, who we resign, who we keep, all that good stuff, so we can actually level and purely
focus on the positions that
we seriously need.
Yeah.
So all these mock drafts before free agency could very well just be, I guess, irrelevant, honestly.
They could be. They could not be. We don't know yet.
We don't know because obviously Steelers are in. I don't want to say they're in a bad cap situation because they're actually they're under the cap now. with the whole Ben restructure, which is good. We still have some restructures to get going. Hopefully we can keep some of the guys like Juju, maybe Sutton, maybe Hilton. That's probably all wishful thinking, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we only got 1 week till free agency starts, though. So the Steelers, they need to start getting to work.
Yes. So, again, this is the last mock before free agency. We'll be back with more mocks after free agency so we can seriously level the Steelers' true needs in April for draft month, which is quickly approaching, which is great. So let's know your guys' thoughts and your mocks down below, man. Here we go, Steelers. Let's see what they do in the next, 2 weeks. 2-3 weeks. It will be very interesting. Yep. But see you guys in the next one.
Like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you later.
Peace!